February 6, 2022, we raised the Ukrainian flag and lit the tower at Charlottetown City Hall yellow and blue as part of the Canadian Canada-wide call to action for the Stand with the Ukraine campaign. And our hearts from the city of Charlottetown and all the citizens of Charlottetown go out to the Ukrainian community here in Charlottetown, across Canada, and abroad during this time of great uncertainty and definitely unease. So that's why the flag is flying on our flagpole here in front of City Hall. Any declarations of conflict of interest?
Seeing none?
Seeing none. Okay, on the agenda for the open session, we have one item from the Council Advisory Committee. It's our appointment to fill a vacancy. Approval to go with that?
Your Worship, Councillor Bernard put up his hand.
Good, Councillor Bernard.
Thank you. Your Worship, I'm just wondering, for closed session, it also says human resource matter. I'm assuming that's the management non-union, and it has matters still under consideration. The enterprise fleet management is not still under consideration, so why wouldn't that stay in the open session? Why would that go closed?
Okay. Are you asking Councillor Bernard to keep it open?
Well, I think under the MGA it has to be.
Okay. Councillor Tweel, did you have something to say?
Yes, I was going to raise that point as well. I'm not sure why it's slated to go in a closed door session. The fleet management, that should be open. When the topic was discussed in an open forum, the resolution was passed in an open forum on a 4-3 vote. So I would see this being in the public's interest, and this topic should be discussed in a public forum. Can't hear you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Tweel. Moved by Councillor Bernard, second by Councillor Tweel to put the matters still under consideration, the enterprise fleet management, into the open forum. Any questions? Question called?
Questions called.
Questions called. Okay. I'm going to quickly go through the roll call. Deputy Mayor Cody, yea or nay?
In favor.
Okay. Councillor Bernard, yea or nay?
In favor.
Councillor McCabe, yea or nay?
In favor.
Councillor Duffy, yea or nay?
In favor.
Councillor Ramsey?
In favor.
Councillor McLeod? Councillor McLeod, yea?
In favor, sorry.
Okay. Councillor Tweel?
In favor.
Councillor Yankoff?
In favor.
Councillor Rivard?
In favor.
Councillor Dran?
In favor.
Okay, so let's take that 5E and that becomes 4B, correct?
Correct, Your Worship.
Okay. So just before we go into the discussions, again, we do have some guests here tonight. I believe Steve McFadgen's here. Nancy McCrae is from Finance. Steve Wedlock is from Finance. So could we please, again, I keep reminding all of us that Dr. Heather Morrison has told us over and over again, let's be kind, be patient, and be respectful. And please use the chat line. Sometimes I can't see who's putting up their hands. I do have all the icons up here, so it may change. So if you do wish, or you can use, there is a hand that you can put the hand up to allow for you to speak. Is that there, Rory? I see in that. Well, anyways, let's go with use your own hand, or again, use the chat line. I'll leave my chat line open. Okay, so the first item, Councillor Yankoff, I don't think it's a self-explanatory, correct?
That's correct. It was just a name brought forward for the vacancy on the planning board. This name came from one of the original lists of the call-out from back a few years ago.
Mr. Kelly, can you read the resolution, please?
And yes, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Yankoff, second by Councillor Duffy, that Paul Connolly be appointed to the City of Charlottetown Planning Board effective immediately.
Okay, question, Councillor Twill.
Yes, the question I have is, can you tell me how many names did the advisory board take into consideration before arriving at this particular candidate, which I support? I just want to understand the process. How many names did you actually entertain at the advisory committee level?
Councillor Yankoff?
We had quite a list, because it started back, I believe it was 3 years ago, of names to choose from. Peter, could you better explain that? I mean, the lists come in, and then it's and I don't even really know how much more to explain it than we just take a list, we look at.
I know that Councillor Duffy, was it over 420 names?
482.
482. And then we did another, Councillor Twill, we did another call out, and I think we received 3 or 4, but I think we went back to our original list of 482 names. Mr. Kelly, do you want to add anything to that number?
No, I was just going to say, Your Worship, that over the years we have just drawn down from those original applicants, and this one is now coming forward.
And is it similar to what Participate Prince Edward Island do? If Islanders are looking to get involved with a provincial advisory committee or a board or an agency, I think they use the same procedure, correct?
And they do ask for applicants, Your Worship, and then they are drawn down accordingly, from my understanding as well.
Second question, Councillor Twill.
So, with the 482 names, do they? I'm just trying to understand the process, and maybe you can help me here, Councillor Jank. So, do they fill out a form, and do they give the reasons why they feel that they would be able to make an effective contribution to, in this particular case, planning board? Do they fill that out, and does the advisory committee look at the rationale and logic and the credibility of each candidate? And again, this has nothing to do with the candidate that's coming forward. I support that candidate. Just trying to understand your process. So, is there a form that's filled out, and then you look at each candidate with respect to their own his or her merit?
So if I can assist Madam Chair of the CSC, what happens, Councillor, is that they do send in their offer to sit on committees. They also attach their a resume. Staff in HR then do up a spreadsheet and binder, and they are then gone to the committee, and the committee then starts to deliberate and go through the criteria that they're looking for and try to pick out the most appropriate individuals.
Councillor Twill, are you looking at applying?
No, Councillor Mayor Brown, I was looking to see if you were going to exit.
So, Councillor Yankoff, is that all right with you? Or are you going to call the question?
The question's called.
Called.
Quickly, Deputy Cody? Deputy Mayor
In favor.
Cody? Councillor Bernard?
Favor.
Councillor McCabe?
In favor.
Councillor Duffy?
In favor.
Councillor Ramsey?
In favor.
Councillor McLeod?
In favor.
Okay. Councillor Twill?
In favor?
Councillor Yankoff?
In favor.
Councillor Rivard?
In favor.
And Councillor Duran?
In favor.
10-0. Okay. So the next item is the issue regarding enterprise fleet management. Councillor Bird, do you want to give some background before we start, or what's your wish?
Just before we start off, and just before we do start, Your Worship, I do want to remind that the approach was to hear from the association and a couple of their members. This is not getting into a staff debate or with those individuals. It's those individuals bringing forth their concerns or the points they want to raise. After that, Your Worship, then our staff will answer any questions for council. But again, it is not to get back and forth and get into a bit of a debate, Your Worship.
Councillor Rivard, just before
Yeah,
you start, I'm going to let you take the floor, but this will be the last time we'll be discussing this issue. So do you want to just lay out because you brought it up during the capital budget.
I don't understand why, again, we're putting so many parameters around this. Why not delve into this and get the truth as opposed to, I mean, Peter, with all due respect, I think we should have this discussion. Absolutely. I think we should ask the hard questions because we're not getting the answers. So to keep putting a muzzle on this, I don't think is the right approach. So why not have the opportunity to ask the questions that we need to ask to the right people to make sure we get the answers. That way, when we actually move past this, we're comfortable in moving past this.
So, Your Worship, we're not opposed to those, but again, the innuendo is that we're holding back information or we're not being upfront. That is not true. I do want to say that staff are giving their best answers based upon the information that they do have. It's not hiding or it's not alluding to anything else. So I do want to make sure that staff are being sincere with their information, and the innuendo doesn't help with that situation, Your Worship.
I
think, Your Worship, just 1 second. Again,
go ahead, Councillor.
But this is why these are open and transparent meetings. We talk about openness and transparency, and here's an opportunity right now with the right people in the room to ask the right questions in a respectful manner. And to sit there and say that, talk about innuendos and all this kind of stuff, there's no innuendos. We're going to find out from the association some of the questions that we seek, and then we can decide if we're happy or not. There's nothing.
And we would support that, Council, but as you recall, other comments have been that we are misleading and not telling the truth. Again, they're the points that cause concern for staff. Staff are bringing forth their issues. They're being sincere, and they have the information that they have, and that's all they can offer up.
As we are as well, we're being sincere and we have questions. So just to be clear, thank you.
Let's just keep the debate going. Councillor Bernard, Councillor McLeod, and then Councillor Tweel. Councillor Bernard.
Yeah, nothing to belabor it. I mean, the reason we're here is because you're right, the capital budget, and there was an accusation made that the truth wasn't being forthcoming, which is quite an accusation to make, and that's why I wanted this to be in the open forum, so there is no misinformation. I don't believe there has been any misinformation. I think our staff has met with the association. My understanding was everything was laid out, we hadn't heard any complaints, I guess, only from Councillor Rivard. So, you know what? We brought it here. I think staff's probably getting tired of dealing with the same issue over and over and over. And I think we voted on it in August. So I'm glad to hear somebody say that this will be the last time we finally deal with it. So, anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Bernard. Councillor McLeod.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I just wanted to say that, I didn't like Councillor Rivard's comments that we're hiding. It was me as Chair of Public Works that kind of said in a public meeting, look, if we think this is such a great thing, let's go out, let's meet with the automobile dealers associations, get their concerns and answer them. And that process was done.
There's been lots of time.
I don't know why we're here. Thank you.
Councillor Tweel.
A couple of points, Your Worship. Just going through the package, was there any background information regarding the contract that was signed by the CAO and yourself? So in preparation for the meeting tonight, so we can hear presentation from our staff and then of course from the representatives from the PEI Automobile Association. So Mr. Kelly, was there any information in the package?
That information was sent out previously, Council, but tonight, from what we understand, was that the association was going to bring forth their commentary, and the supporting folks who were with her were also going to speak. Then Council could ask questions of clarity, and we would move forward from there.
Councillor Twill, just 1 second. Let's just go back with the point of clarification. There was a vote taken, and it was 4-3. You were there. So, as the representative of the Office of the Mayor and the CAO, the wish of council from that meeting was to go with Enterprise Fleet Management. That's why the contract was signed by the CAO and myself. We just didn't go out and do it on our own. So I want to make sure that's clarified. I don't want to have people leaving here and thinking, well, they just signed a lease agreement with the Enterprise Fleet Management and had no green light from the council. Okay, I thought I had Councillor McCabe. Did you have your hand up? And
More than I think I was just going to say that I think this is just an opportunity for clarification. No one's saying anyone gave wrong information. I think the staff understood this contract to be a certain way, and then it was brought up that maybe it was a different way. So it's just an opportunity to make sure we're all on the same page.
And is it all right with council just to keep all the players around the table? Can I just quickly get a straw vote on it? Councillor Deputy Mayor Cody, are you all right with just allowing the discussion to go ahead with all the players in the room, or in the virtual room, I should say? Yay or nay?
Yes.
Councillor Bernard?
Yeah, that's the idea, yep.
Yep. Councillor McCabe?
Absolutely.
Councillor Duffy?
Yes.
Councillor Ramsey?
Yes.
Councillor McLeod?
Yes.
Councillor Twill?
Yes, Your Worship, I've been asking for this for the last 4 or 5 months.
Councillor Yankow?
Yes, Your Worship.
Councillor Rivard?
Yep.
And Councillor Duran?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll start off with,
If
we do have Lisa
sorry.
Doyle McBain, who is from the Prince Edward Island Automobile Dealers Association. And Lisa, the other person, would you identify, is he with staff or
Yeah.
is he with?
Sorry, my name's Adam Tor. I'm the dealer principal of Township Chevrolet in Summerside. I'm the vice president of the Dealers Association.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Lisa, could you please go first? Is that all right?
Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I guess want to state for the record that I only found out about this a couple of hours ago. So we don't have a formal presentation developed, but I did pull some notes together. So I'll just speak for a couple of minutes, and then maybe it's a situation of asking us some questions, and hopefully we can answer. I'm glad that Adam is here because he's a dealer. I'm not a dealer. I don't sell the vehicles. I don't service the vehicles. I manage the association. So hopefully we can answer whatever questions you have. So fleet purchases and leases are not something new to our dealerships. We've been doing them for decades, and we've been working with fleet companies for decades. So we like to think that we probably know what we're talking about. We had no reason to expect that the process would be any different with the city, and based on our experience, as well as recent communications between our dealerships and Enterprise, it was still our understanding that the only involvement with the dealership would be a pass-through. So Enterprise has their own dealer code for specific manufacturers that they're able to use to order directly from the manufacturer, the factory. Due to franchising agreements, a new vehicle must pass through a local licensed dealership for that manufacturer. So the pass-through fee, which is typically several $100s, $200, $300, $400, is an agreed upon fee that doesn't even cover the operating expenses or the overhead of what's involved. And what's involved is a motor vehicle inspection, a pre-delivery inspection that includes taking the vehicle out of ship mode and engaging many safety features, which requires specialized tools and training, typically $50 of fuel in the gas tank, cleaning the vehicle, and then the liability of holding the vehicle on the dealership lot. There is no additional markup on the vehicle. And I guess at this point, just on that point, Adam, can you, as a dealer, verify that?
Yeah, that'd be an accurate statement. Every manufacturer is different, so they all vary, and obviously other manufacturers play a larger role of fleet companies, specifically, Chrysler, Ford, Hyundai, General Motors, of course. everyone would operate a little bit differently, but Enterprise would have specific agreements with each manufacturer.
So I think it's kind of been a case of he said, she said, and what we've been saying would happen and what Enterprise was telling staff would happen. And so rather than, I guess, believing and trusting in us, the local business people that have been dealing with this kind of stuff for decades, you chose to believe the unsolicited proposal from Enterprise. So we waited patiently, and now the proof is in the pudding, as they say. So in speaking with the GM of Reliable Motors and the CEO of Fairhope Ford, I'm told the transactions by Enterprise on behalf of the city have occurred as we said they would, with no profit to the local dealerships. So maybe I'll pause there, see if there's any questions. We don't have those individuals with us this evening, but I do have emails from them verifying those points.
Lisa, just before we start, I apologize because when I spoke to you this afternoon, I thought from the capital budget meeting that the councillor and I spoke to Councillor Rivard, that it was a miscommunication between the two of us and staff, so my apologies for how this ended up. But again, we do have your brief from last summer that was made to the council. Okay, so we have Steve McFadden. Any questions up to this point? Just raise your hand, please.
If I could.
Okay, let's Steve McFadden. You want to go, Stephen?
Yeah, just a couple points of clarity of what our understanding is. So I did speak with Enterprise after the vehicle orders were placed. Fairhope Ford, they spoke to Randy Hume, and those who were the orders were placed through. When Enterprise reached out to Randy, they agreed to a $500 vehicle markup. When Fairhope Ford realized that they were actually doing the orders, that it wasn't being ordered direct from Ford, they had asked for a $700 markup. Enterprise and Ford had spoken, and they agreed because they had already submitted quotes to the city based on a $500 markup, they would keep that as the markup and raise it to $700 for the next go around if Ford was a successful vendor. As for the MVI, the PDI, the fuel and such, all of that expense will be passed through to the city. That'll not be carried by the dealership.
So if I could ask a quick question, I just wonder how many vehicles are we talking about?
Just 1 second. Councillor Tweel had his hand up, then you, Councillor Bernard. Councillor Tweel. On mute.
Sorry about that. I guess my first question is to Lisa, and then I'd like to go back to Stephen. So, Lisa, from an ideal perspective, if this thing was, the way it was presented to council, what was the accurate markup so that each dealer would receive a fair return on their involvement with the transaction of these vehicles from the dealership passing through eventually to the city?
Okay, I'll answer a couple of questions. We're talking about 18 vehicles in total. There was one, maybe I'll read the statement from Brad McLennan, General Manager, Reliable Motors. Inform you that on January 6, 2022, Enterprise Fleet Management ordered such and such vehicle for the city of Charlottetown. As previously communicated to the city, this vehicle just appears on our inventory tape, and when it arrives, we are required to complete pre-delivery inspection, MVI, fuel, clean, and deliver, all for a very small pass-through fee. No one at our store was involved in the lease or purchase negotiations between Enterprise and the city. I don't know what the dollar value was for Reliable.
Okay, my second question to Stephen.
Councillor Tweel. Just let one at a time. I'm going to go to Councillor Bernard. You can have your next question. Councillor Bernard.
I think Lisa just answered it. I was just wondering how many vehicles we were talking about. I think she said 19 or.
18 is what I 1 from Reliable and 17 from Ford.
Okay, and the markup, Steve said was 700 each?
Well, at Reliable, it doesn't state in the email. In my verbal communications with Brad, we'd have to confirm it, but I think he said 200. My understanding from Sean is 500. That's not, that was their pass-through fee. So that was the fee for all those things that I mentioned. I can paraphrase his email here for you. Enterprise ordered 17 vehicles on December 20th. For whatever reason, Enterprise does not have access through Ford to order these vehicles themselves like other fleet companies, so we even had to do one extra step and order the vehicles for them. Even though these vehicles don't come from our allocation, we had to place the orders for Enterprise at no additional charge or markup. This was very time-consuming, and Enterprise was very demanding. And he said, as of today, and that was January 28th, the vehicles don't even have a build date attached to them.
So then I hear Mr. Ned say now that the agreement was made for 700 per vehicle. So
this go around, the agreement between Enterprise and Ford was $500 per vehicle. The next go around, Ford has asked for a $700 per vehicle markup.
So what's normally the markup? Do we know that?
Well, it's not a markup, it's a pass-through fee that covers all of those things that I mentioned. And it can be, some dealerships, it's a couple of $100 depending on the manufacturer, anywhere up to $450, $500. So 500 would be on the higher end of that pass-through fee, but it covers a lot of stuff. And as Sean, who's the CEO of Ford, Fair Isle Ford, mentioned, they had to do a ton of work for this, on top of all of those other things.
So if they didn't want to, would they have to lease it?
Adam?
Yeah, Adam, can you just,
I don't think anybody's making them do it, are they?
yeah,
Yeah,
Adam,
so
can you answer
I'm not-
some of those? Go
Sure.
ahead.
So typically when and again, I can't speak for all manufacturers. I only kind of speak for my own. So typically, Enterprise would have their own allocation of inventory, so they can decide kind of where they want to send it, as long as you want to do the work once the unit lands, essentially. That's how it works. It could be also different with other manufacturers. So if they took it out of the individual's fleet inventory allocation for the year, that can be different, but I can't answer or speak for Reliable or Fair Isle Ford.
Steve, can you just
This
respond?
is one of the questions that come up when Lisa and I and a few of the automobile dealers met, and I had gone back to the acquisitions team at Enterprise, and the allocation, there's two types of fleet that Enterprise deals with. One is the rental side, which is they order in mass quantities. They have they said absolutely in the rental side of things, they'll just show up on the lot unannounced. This isn't the same type of agreement as the rentals. That is why the dealerships did the ordering as they requested from the get-go of this, that they wanted to be a part of the equation. Enterprise's markup, which has been very upfront from the get-go, which was 2% on the vehicle. If Ford or Reliable or Hillside or whoever else local wanted to propose a different markup in that negotiation process, they could have done that. Enterprise's job is to bring it back to us and tell us whether it's within reason, and then we would take it to senior management, and then they would decide how to go forward.
Thank you, Steve. I'm just going to go quickly to Councillor McLeod, Councillor Duffy, and then back to Councillor Twill. I think he had a second. Councillor McLeod?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. It's a question for Stephen, I guess. So, out of those vehicles, those 18 vehicles, are they all our vehicles, or are they rental vehicles?
So it's a lease agreement, and Stephen Wedlock can correct me if I misspeak here, because this is more of a finance side of things. But we are basically leasing the vehicles from from Enterprise. Enterprise is purchasing them through Ford. So the invoice that comes will be from Fair Isle to Enterprise. what happens is let's say, for example, just use our duty crew truck, for example. If we have the vehicle, let's say we use it for 12 months, and Enterprise's team said, to get the best bang for the buck, we recommend after 12 months that you try to sell that vehicle back into the market. The book value and what we sell it for, the equity that's in that comes back to the city, whether we decide to take that as a check or we roll that into the next type of purchase.
So
Did I sum that up, Steve? Yeah.
Stephen, just on mute. Stephen, on mute.
Sorry. No, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Stephen.
Councillor McLeod, second question?
So the second part is, why would fleet management not communicate with, I think Lisa said GM? Like, you know, you said they talked to Ford. Why would those vehicles arrive without them knowing about it?
Sorry, say that again?
So the vehicles arrived, according to GM, the vehicles arrived without them having any knowledge of the vehicles showing up. And what I'm hearing from you is that, well, when they deal with Ford, they talk to a certain person.
No, that's through a rental side, not through a leasing side. Because when Lisa and I and some of the dealers met, that was one of the questions that they had at that meeting, and I went back to their acquisitions team to ask, as I said I would. And they said that there's two departments within Enterprise. There's the fleet management, and then there's the rental side. The rental side, it's mass order quantities. He wasn't surprised to hear that they'd have random vehicles showing up on the lots, but we're not dealing with that side of the business. We're dealing with the fleet management side.
So to finish my question, thank you, Mr. Mayor, is so that them 18 cars really had nothing to do with the city.
That they were the vehicles that we decided upon that we were going to order based on the values we got. So they were the best dollar for the city. We looked at Dodge, we looked at Chev, we looked at Ford. Chev's ordering window closed really, really early because of supply issues, I would assume. Dodge is closed earlier than Ford's, and Ford's may still be open. I doubt it because I know they were running low. But whatever order of stock went in, if we were to go to public tender, you're basically tendering on what inventory the dealership would have then, which increases the cost to the taxpayer.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Duffy, I know you had your hand up, and then I had Councillor Ramsey and Councillor Rivard back then. I know Councillor Tweel, I know. Councillor Duffy?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we're overlooking one obvious point here, that there's 11 of us on City Council, and we're elected by the taxpayers of the City of Charlottetown to do a job, to represent them, to provide services, and to do that sort of thing, you have to have bylaws, regulations, policies. And where I'm going with this is the procurement policy of the City of Charlottetown. We're the steward of the taxpayer's dollar, and the policy reads as follows. The City of Charlottetown recognizes that the taxpayers of this city expect and have the right to receive a high level of service at the lowest possible cost. So I don't, like, if there's a fee for a grease job or an oil change or whatever, if there's a fee for that or whatever, that's strictly between the lease company and the dealer. And that's where the word stands. It remains that we are the steward of the taxpayer's dollar. We try to get the best deal possible. And we have allotted $222,000 to lease, I believe it's 19 vehicles, 17 from Fairhoff Ford, 1 from Reliable, and then there's one that was explained to me today that is going to be outfitted or purchased through a special area, a special equipment on it. So if we can get 19 vehicles for $1,000, purchasing 19 vehicles from the car dealers. I know it's not good news for the car dealers, and I won't down myself to them for saying it, but that's our job. Our job is to get the best bang for the taxpayer's dollar. Thank you.
Councillor Tweel, I'm going to let Councillor Ramsey go first. There's some mic still on, or Mr. Kelly or Roy.
I'll check the worship.
Can you? Yeah. Okay. Councillor Ramsey? Turn on your mic.
you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Lisa and everything. The only thing I'm trying to wrap my head around is inventory. As of today, or as of last year, the trucks that we purchased, we own them, so there was inventory that we would have. With this new leasing agreement with Enterprise, we will never have any inventory, correct? In 5-10 years down the road, or assets, I should say. I hope I'm clear with that. And Steve.
There currently will be no change as far as the way the accounting goes. So these are structured as capital asset purchases. So they would be treated the same as far as accounting goes, and we would have ownership as long as we are under that lease agreement.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like, we have nothing in inventory really because it's all leased. Am I correct?
No, because these are structured as capital leases, they're not operating, then we hold them as capital assets on our balance sheet. So we treat them exactly the same way as previous outright purchases were treated in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Twill.
Thank you. I want to go back to just a couple of questions. One would be to Steve McFadden. I think you said in your earlier comments that if there's any additional costs, the city would incur that cost. Can you be specific about what those costs are?
Yep, thank you. Lisa mentioned them. The NBI, that would be carried on. Same as if you go and purchase a car. I'm sure we all have our own vehicles. If you go and purchase a car and you get your invoice sheet. I recently just did it for my mother. The MBI is part of the cost that's on that vehicle. The PDI, the fuel. I don't know if any of those type of costs are going to be carried on through us. That'll be separate. The city will take care of.
Okay. My second. Thank you, Stephen. My second question is, from a comparative analysis perspective, under this new arrangement compared to the old arrangement, what is the cost savings per vehicle? If you had to break it down, can you give me what's the comparative analysis and what is the cost savings under this new arrangement with Enterprise PEI versus the previous arrangements dealing directly with the car dealerships going through the open tender?
Sure. So I can use last year's as the most recent example. We tendered for a half-ton crew cab 4x4. The invoice cost to us was $64,930. The same type of truck, 4x4 crew cab, this year is $49,822, a savings of $14,958 per vehicle. For 3/4 ton, which are 2500 series trucks, last year we tendered it out. It was $72,185 that we paid. Enterprise pricing $50,335, a savings of $21,699 per vehicle. 3/4 ton or 3500 series truck, and it's the one that we're going to actually go out for public tender because there's a lot of upfitting that has to go on. It was $65,930 is what we paid last year. This year the invoice costing was $47,899. In terms of the ProMaster Ram, we actually missed the cutoff date for it. Since I've been here, we haven't purchased a van. I have nothing to compare it to, but I know the MSRP cost was $37,440, and we're paying $36,687.62.
And that's on an annual basis, right?
Yes. So, like, if you for those costs, even for the half tons. So at say $14,958. If you say $15,000, and we have, I think we ordered 16 of the half tons. I mean, if you do that math, that's a significant savings to the taxpayer.
Okay. Thank you.
Stephen, just in a clarification, Stephen, the 72,000, 50,000. So from Enterprise Fleet, we take ownership of that vehicle.
It becomes a capital asset of ours. So at the end of the lease term, let's say there's a residual value of, so for these ones, I think it's 40, let me just get the right numbers here.
So you buy out the lease at the end.
Yeah, so for the invoice cost for this with Enterprises markup and the dealership markup is $49,822. So just for an example's sake, at the end of this year, or the end of 12 months, it was about 15,000 kilometers on it. That vehicle is going to be worth on the books $40,854. Right now, I looked up for the Blue Book value. With that vehicle would sell for $45,990. So we'd have about $5,000 in equity at the end of this year on that particular vehicle.
Councillor Yanka, excuse me, Councillor Yanka.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had asked this question back many months ago too in Public Works, and so we have 3,573 municipalities in Canada, and I don't believe there's anybody in Atlantic Canada using this fleet management system. I found a few in Alberta, and I was curious then, and I'm still curious now, like what is the reason for the city kind of sailing on this uncharted territory without really any kind of best practice to go by? Thank you.
I could give my 2 cents of why I like it. My job working for the city is to try to find good deals for the taxpayer and bring it forward to council to make decisions on. This originally came from finance. It feels like forever ago, like 18 months ago. We sat down with all the management teams across all the departments. We looked at it. We realized that there are some significant savings to be had for the city. And when you're looking at the dollars that we're looking at, even if you just compare last year to this year, I think it'd be irresponsible for us not to bring something like this forward. I think that I know as a taxpayer, I don't want to pay more taxes. I'm sure others don't want to pay more taxes. So I think that's for me, that's the reason is that, you can ask staff at a Public Works that, I spend money like it's coming out of my pocket. We try to be as frugal as we can with the tax dollars. I take a great deal of pride in my role, and I think that's my own view, and that's why I support this kind of thing. I was disappointed, Councillor Rivard, to hear that you implied that we were lying to you. You can disagree with whether you like the proposal or not. I certainly don't like the fact that my integrity is being questioned with information. That's a real sticking point for me. You can disagree with whether you like the thing. Our job is to bring it forward. Your guys' job is to decide whether to go for it. We got a direction from council to move forward, and we placed the orders as we were instructed to do.
Okay, Councillor, who else had their hand up?
Councillor Rivard, Your Worship.
Councillor Bernard, and then Councillor Rivard. Councillor Bernard.
Thank you. I'm glad all the information is coming out because you can start to see that it really makes a lot of sense. Just naming off those vehicles. I'm just wondering if I can get Mr. McFadden. I missed some of them. Would it be a lot to write them off again? I want to write them down. You said the price we paid the previous year is the price now. Did I get that right?
Yeah. So what I did is I pulled the tender results from last year, which was awarded to Summerside Chrysler Dodge. So for half-ton crew cab, 4x4, we paid $64,930 per truck.
Okay.
The Enterprise invoice cost for us this year is $49,822.
Is that the same vehicle?
One's a Ford, one's a Dodge, but same option.
That's it. Okay.
2021 tender truck was $72,185 that we paid for it. 3/4 ton or 2500 series crew cab. The the Enterprise one, it comes in at $50,335.60.
$22,000 less for one vehicle.
Yeah, $21,699 per truck.
Both the same make, Stephen?
And not the same make. One's a Dodge, one's a Ford, but the exact same option.
And what's the other one?
The one that we bought last year were Dodge Rams. The ones this year are Ford, I think they call them XLTs, or F-150 XL, sorry.
Okay.
So the half-ton 4x4 was a $15,000 in the difference, and the other ones was $21,000 in the difference. And that's one vehicle, not a number of vehicles, that's each.
Correct.
And what did you say about the, when the vehicle is leased, our leasing price of what we're paying, and then after a year, you say the markup on that, the Blue Book value on that was $45,000.
So on the current order, so of the F-150s we just ordered, the invoice price was $49,822.14.
Okay.
The book value at the end of 12 months is $40,864.18. Currently, a 2021, which is comparing the same thing, is going for $49,990.
So
$5,000 in equity in that truck at the end of the year.
In favor of the city, okay. So what happens, when does, I'm trying to remember what the contract said on the leases, when the leases expires. There's so many miles before we have to move it on, they take it from our hands?
So we, basically, it's an open-end lease, so we kind of meet with them twice a year and kind of decide based on our usage about when is the best time to turn around that truck based on the market. And Steve Wedlock, please jump in if I misspeak on this stuff, because I've learned a lot on this, but this is not my area of expertise. This is definitely Steve Wedlock's area of expertise.
Steve,
but they would basically meet with us twice a year and say, here's the fleet, here's what the market is right now, and we would decide whether it's the best time to turn that vehicle over and get us into something new again, or if no, we're going to keep that and go on for a little bit longer.
Okay. Steve Wedlock, do you want to add anything? Just on mute. On mute.
No, I think Stephen is correct. The advantages to this overall are that Enterprise is there with a very large resale market, and they try and help us determine the sweet spot as to when to roll that vehicle over and get the most equity out of it. So Stephen McFadden's explanation was right on point.
Councilor,
my last question, Your Worship,
okay, go ahead, sir.
See if I get this right. So, where's my notes here? I think Lisa had earlier said that the pass-through, correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, the pass-through covers like, you say inspection fees and fuel and stuff like that, which I think I heard Stephen say that the city covers that. So
yes, it includes the motor vehicle inspection, pre-delivery inspection, taking the vehicle out of ship mode, and instituting safety features, filling, or I guess with today's prices, giving some fuel in the tank, like $50, cleaning the vehicle, and then holding the vehicle, having the liability of the vehicle on the lot until it's picked up.
So, Steve McFadden, so do we cover some of those costs? Did I hear you say, Steve?
Yeah, we will be covering all of those costs.
So then, okay, so that's not a detriment to the dealer, then we're covering them, so they're not losing there.
Correct.
I have to say, I mean, I have a written statement from the owner of Reliable Motors. I have a written statement from the CEO of Fair Isle Ford that's saying otherwise. All I can do is share that information with you. So,
please do.
I mean, and same goes for me, Lisa. Like we have been assured by Enterprise that when those invoices come in, because there's nothing has changed hands yet. There's been no bills. There's no trucks delivered or anything like that. But when those vehicles come in, I asked the question again today that the dealership, who is paying for the motor vehicle inspection, who's paying for the PDI, who's paying to fuel them up, and their immediate answer was the city will incur those costs. And I said, thank you very much.
So in all likelihood, you're paying that fee.
Adam, could you just add something?
Yeah, just a quick question. Stephen, I think you said a while ago this didn't actually go out to tender. You used it against previous tenders when you compared the Enterprise numbers. when you're looking at the enterprise offer, you looked at past historical tenders. Is that what you used?
I used last year's tenders, but even
Okay.
if I look at historically, I have actually our halftime up in front of me here. Give me one quick sec.
I guess I'm just kind of curious. I'm kind of coming new into this, but just wonder why it would not have gone out to tender again, so that you could have then compared pricing against the enterprise numbers.
Why?
You're asking that to
because
Steve.
the city had already entered into the agreement with Enterprise.
Okay. And I think you can get out whenever you want, correct, to the enterprise agreement? Yeah. And is there any plan to go to tender to the dealers locally whenever you do go to upgrade the fleet? So, for example, say you meet with Enterprise twice a year, will you be going out to tender those vehicles twice a year as well with the local dealers to replace those?
No, but one of the things that Enterprise has said that local dealerships are able to try to purchase them through an agreement with the city, and then you guys could turn them over on your lot. So that may be something that can be worked out between the city and the local dealerships, that when it comes time to turn those vehicles over, that maybe some type of arrangement is made there. That's
yeah, and I guess I'm more so questioning the process as far as, making sure that, if you're the stewards of taxpayers' dollars, what are we doing to make sure that, rather making sure you're getting the best possible price, whether through Enterprise or the local dealers, because obviously manufacturers will change different programs throughout the year as well. The local dealer may have an opportunity to be competitive with Enterprise. Whether they can or can't, it'll kind of depend when that time comes, but at least, again, you'll make sure that you guys are getting the most out of your money.
or when we sell them. Is that your question?
No, specifically when you replace them. So I'm not even mentioning the if there is equity in it or not, but say you went to replace a truck after a year, rather than automatically assume another rental agreement on another truck, if you could then, compare that pricing with what you could get from the local dealer, whether that's to your advantage or not, at least you'd have some type of a comparison.
Yeah, I think that that's part of the process, is that we continually look at this and to see, just because it's a good deal today, doesn't mean that in a couple of years or a year's time that there isn't a better opportunity. And that's kind of how we are where we are today, is that this is new to the city, and as Councillor Lana said, this is a good deal for the city and what we're seeing now. But in 12 months and 18 months, the market's changed. We all are feeling that in pocketbook, right? So in a year's time, will they look at it again? They might.
And I'm not discrediting any of the work that you guys did like that, but specifically just where this did not actually go out to tender at any local dealers. It was just, we assumed that based on historical tenders, it'd be more money, so we just, assume the rental agreement.
Yeah, for me, it's the last 5 years. I've only been in this role 5 years. We've had very few dealerships bid on our tenders, and it's probably an inventory issue because of the way that the supply chain issue is. But we went out for 13 vehicles, I think it was last year. Could be off on the number, but somewhere around there, and we had one bid.
Yeah, and again, just I'm not going to keep harping on it, but again, just as the steward to the taxpayers' dollars, to make sure that the council is doing the most would be to just make sure that you're getting competitive or comparable pricing every time you go out for the taxpayers. That's all.
Thank you, Adam. I just got Lisa, can we just get a couple more questions and then come back? I see your hand up there. Councillor McLeod, I have to get Councillor Rivard because he did. Councillor Rivard, can you ask your question, please?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. So, my issue really boils down to what was told to us in the chambers, the council chambers, that there was going to be no impact to the dealerships. That was stated in the chambers. There's going to be no impact to the dealerships, and that information is false. So all the hurt feelings you want, and the point is that we were told that nothing would happen, and the association was happy.
I don't think that's true. That's not true. That's not true.
I'll find the minutes, and I'll bring it back in a public forum. Sure.
What was said was.
No, Councilor Bernard, just 1 sec. I have some other people, you can follow up. Councilor,
Hold on.
please finish up. Are you done? Do you want any more?
Yeah, I would. Thank you, Your Worship. I've been sitting
Go ahead,
patiently. Thanks for 30 seconds. So, again, we were told that vehicles will be purchased through the dealerships. Again, that information is false. The only reason why, and Lisa just stated it, that Ford purchased those, or it went through Ford, was because the fleet management didn't have access through the manufacturer. So again, that is false information. We're actually not buying them through the dealership. We're actually buying them through the manufacturer, and they're simply coming through as a pass through the dealerships. So again, this is information that was shared to us at council, and it's false. It's not the truth. So to say that we purchased 17 vehicles through Ford, kind of with a gun to their head, in essence, pardon the I guess the term, but you know what I mean. And so that's false information. So they're only getting the pass-through money. So they absolutely are impacted. Okay. And that's what I referred to it, saying that, to say that we're buying them through, this is the process, it's been false. So, I mean, I'd like to hear what Lisa has to say based on some of the stuff that was already shared, but again, the information wasn't totally accurate.
Okay. So just Councilor Rivard, can we just ask Steve McFadgen to respond to what you said? Steve?
Yeah, I mean, the information, Greg, that I have is that the dealership placed the order. I will ask for a copy of what we can get to send to you guys to prove that the dealership placed the order, that the $500 fee, I'm giving you information that I have. I have no reason to mislead anybody. We're just telling you the information that we have and sharing it as best we can. The information that I have is when Enterprise contacted the dealerships, they set the markup fee of $500. It was added to the invoice cost, which we have in our quotes. And the actual orders were placed by Farrell Ford, and at Farrell, it was placed by Randy Hume. And at Reliable, it was placed by Kyle Stevenson. So that's just the information passed on to me. I don't know those two individuals. I didn't speak to the dealership. That's not been our role. I'm just communicating what has been shared with us. And if you have proof otherwise, I mean, please, I would be happy to go back to Enterprise with it, but this is the information we have. This is, I mean, the documents that we signed for the quotes, it's clearly stated on there. So, yeah.
So you
Councilor Rivard, just a second question. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so thank you, Steve, and I appreciate, again, the work you've done on this. But again, when I read the email I got from Brad McLennan, for instance, he says that no one at our store was involved in a lease or the purchase negotiations between EFM and or the city of Charlottetown. It was done right through the manufacturer. So again, it's just a pass-through. So the only reason why we're seeing the 17 through Ford.
But Greg, Lisa clearly stated that Ford had to order the dealers.
Had to.
Ford told, Lisa mentioned there that the dealership placed the order because they apparently didn't have access, which they could have or factory direct ordered from Ford Canada, which we did not want them to do. We wanted them to approach the local dealerships, have the local dealerships apply a markup fee that they felt was reasonable. Enterprise's job is to protect what we're going into. And they stayed at the $500 because I said, well, what if they had said $1,500? And he said, well, we would bring that back to you guys, and you guys would make that decision whether you would move forward or not.
Good. Okay, Lisa, do you want to just make some comments, Lisa, and then I'll go back to Councilor Bernard.
One point I'd like to make is to be very cautious when comparing prices. Adam already referred to a point of using current tender values, but also being careful not to compare the tender of one vehicle to the tender or the purchase or the acquisition of 17 vehicles. You're going to get very different pricing. As well, it's important to compare apples to apples. You're comparing a Ford to a Dodge. So, you know, you've got to do the comparisons so that all things are equal. I mean, Sean has written here in his email that the vehicles did not come from Fair Isles or D-Alexis allocation. The vehicles are coming from National Fleet, but for whatever reason, Enterprise didn't have a manufacturer code to work directly with the factory, so they had to get Fair Isle to do it for them, with no additional charge or markup. This is in writing from the CEO of the dealership. So I'm just sharing that information with you.
Please forward that to him, Lisa.
I appreciate what you're reading, Lisa. I'm just reading you the information that I have as a staff. You know, we are given, let me just get the actual dollars here. So,
220
cost for the Ford F-150.
Just getting your numbers, Stephen.
Yeah, $53,257 is an invoice cost from Ford Canada when it arrives at the dealership. Government fleet pricing or fleet incentives was $5,000. So there's immediately a $5,000 discount offered on that invoice pricing. From that, 2% of that is Enterprise's markup, which I think is 1,060, somewhere around there, and then there's Ford's markup of $500, and then that value there is our lease cost. Those are numbers they're in the actual lease agreement that we signed. I can appreciate what the information that you're sharing and what you're being told. I'm just reading the actual contract that the city has signed, and that the prices are clearly stated on the contract.
And does that also include all the other charges, the additional financing charge, the monthly maintenance fee per vehicle, the management fee of 0.1%, the fee on the repair? Like, does it include all those other fees? Is that figure that you're quoting, the other fees that Enterprise has stated would be part of your plan?
Some of them we opted out of. So there was one, I think, when it first started, there was like $50 or $60 per vehicle they were going to charge. What we opted with was there's a $10 fee that's being charged that basically gives us an online inventory of all of our fleet, and it helps us manage our parts and even our current older models, so that if we buy an alternator now, we have a software that we currently pay a monthly fee on. We can actually get rid of it now because we can use theirs to upload that information in. That's Stephen Wedlock. Maybe you can comment if there's other fee on top of that, but I don't believe there is.
Stephen Wedlock.
As far as I'm aware, Stephen, you guys opted for the lower maintenance fee just to be part of that group, to report your maintenance and keep track of the fleet. I'm not aware of any other fees on top of those.
Okay, Councillor Bernard, then Councillor McLeod.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to, first of all, just rebuttal a little bit what Councillor Rivera said. I don't think it was said that, the way he put it, that it wouldn't affect them. I think what we always said was the vehicles would continue to be purchased through dealerships, and they would continue to maintain them. And I guess I'm a little surprised that this has been